I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational. But that just wouldn't be our style. Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
All right, everyone. Welcome in to another episode of The Bills Guys. I am David Tilton, and tonight I am joined by a special guest, none other than Mr. Casey Reed of Buffalo Fanatics. Our guy, Steve Judge Mathis, he had some adulting he had to do tonight, so he's not able to join us tonight. But we've got Casey on tonight, and we're going to kind of go through, obviously, the Bills-Titans preview, but Casey is our verified gambler with the Action Network on Buffalo Fanatics. You can track all of his bets and picks on the Action Network. Casey, in just a second, I'm going to give you a chance to tell everyone how people can follow you, but it's going to be fun tonight because we're going to do our normal preview, but we're also going to kind of touch on a little bit of fantasy in there as well as the gambling. And of course, we'll end off with our predictions for the night. So, and yes, before we begin, just kind of give credit to those in the room tonight. We've got Bills Guys N is in the house. Thomas Burke is in the house. Randy Hardman, our big giveaway winner from 2 shows ago, is in. Brian Bowers is in the house. Zach Allen is in. Let's see who else we got in here.
Elliot, don't forget Elliot. Elliot's in here.
Elliot's in. Ryan Teal, another regular of ours. My brother, Ryan Tilton, is in the house. Hello, sir. And he's giving me the shameless plug. Ryan Teal with the super chat to start off the show already tonight. Thank you, Ryan. Loyal viewer. James FX90, I can't forget him. He says adulting with with the smileys. Yes, that is what Steve is doing tonight. So we've got to worry about that tonight. But you know what? It's okay. We'll hold down the fort. So as I mentioned, we've got Casey Reed in the house tonight to help us with the preview. And for those of you who are into fantasy, for those of you into gambling, Casey's your guy. And he just not to brag about him because he can brag about himself, but he went 11-3 on not just picks but spread picks this weekend, folks. So you want to make sure you're following Casey. Why don't you tell everyone how people can follow you and follow your picks?
Man, you're right. I went on a heater this weekend, and I loved every minute of it. There's a lot of guys in the chat that I see regularly on the pregame show, so shout out to those guys. They already know what I'm about. Everybody else, I've been on the Bills Guys multiple times. You can actually follow my spreads, all those good stuff. If you go to my Twitter profile, I've changed it a couple times. Now it is CashOutBF, right? So you can find me on Twitter at CashOutBF. And then, of course, you look at it. I've got a pinned tweet. If you click that link right there in the pinned tweet, it's going to take you straight to the Action Network. And all you have to do is download that app, right? And then you can find me on the app, and you can follow along with every single pick I make. And at the end of the day, we're all about making some money.
Yep. And I'm following you on there. I followed your picks this weekend. It was great. Action Network is really actually a great app. I think it's super user-friendly. It even will tell you how much time is left in halftime. For those like funny things like that, it's really good. It's really detailed. So check it out.
The one thing I like about the Action Network, and I've been using them for years now, is if I'm busy and I'm not able to watch every single game, I pull out my phone, I quickly go to that app, and it actually has rings. So you look at the rings, and it's going to be either green, yellow, or red. Yellow, obviously, you might win the bet. You might lose the bet. Red, you're losing the bet. And green, you are winning all day long. And this weekend, it was all about the green, and I was winning.
It was all about the green. Now, speaking of this weekend, and this is a good segue, because as we start this show tonight, we start talking about Bills Titans. The Battle of Undefeateds was kind of the theme of this show. I want to quickly just go around what happened in the NFL this weekend. It's an unusual week, as we know. We're not going to talk too much about punishments or things like that. We're going to try to focus on the game at hand. But to quickly recap, right? We went into this weekend. The Bills are in an unusual situation. They're playing the very last game. Now, this would normally be the case if they were playing on a Monday night, but they're playing on a Tuesday night. So we've had all this game action so far this weekend. We're waiting around for the Bills game, seeming like it's going to go off tomorrow without a problem at this rate. But you kind of take a landscape of the NFL and look at the undefeated teams that are in the league right now. You've got the Packers, who are 4-0. They're on a bye week, so they didn't play this week. You got Seattle, 5-0. They came out with the come-from-behind win last night against the Vikings. You've got the Steelers at 4-0, who have actually played, a pretty good schedule to their credit, and Roethlisberger is looking good with those. That Steelers defense looks good. They're undefeated. They've had a bye week. The Chiefs, who were undefeated, got knocked off by the Raiders yesterday, which is big news for the Bills, potentially in that quest to that number 1 seed. And that leaves the Bills and the Titans in this matchup tomorrow as 2 other undefeated teams. The Titans have only played 3 games so far. They're 3-0. This will be their 4th game. They've had their, quote, bye last week when they missed the game against the Steelers. So, the Bills are in rarefied air right now as being one of the few remaining unbeaten teams. What do you take away, big picture from the teams left that maybe haven't lost yet? Are there, is there anything there that kind of raises your eyebrow, especially maybe in the AFC where you see the Titans and Steelers and the Chiefs obviously just picking up their first loss? Anything you see there kind of raises your eyebrow a little bit?
The Steelers they're legit. Yeah, they're legit. Big Ben is looking amazing. Shout out Chase Claypool for getting 42 points in fantasy. Who saw that coming? I put in a claim on him, so hopefully I get him, and then I can turn around and trade him to somebody and get some people better, because he's not going to put up that production the whole time. But Steelers, they've got a legit defense. I was talking about that in the offseason. So they're somebody that I'm excited about the matchup later on the year with. The Chiefs, I think we kind of figured out there's a blueprint now on how to beat them, right? Studying the tape from the Raiders game, see if we can't recreate some of the things that the Raiders did to beat them. So if I'm ranking them, it's going Steelers, then the Chiefs. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. The Titans don't scare me, but I think we should be weary of them just for the fact that they have been on this bye week. They are getting healthier. They were banged up in their secondary, so that's something to watch out for. But I think now they're starting to get a little bit healthy, and I say healthy in quotation marks, right? Because of a COVID outbreak. But Derrick Henry, he could definitely run all over us if we're not careful. And then Johnny Smith, Matt Milano's out, so it's something to monitor.
Yeah, we're going to get into that obviously in depth as we start headed talking about the matchup later. But James with the super chat. Thank you, James. We need to have a moment of silence for Dak. Look, I said this yesterday on social media. I really feel bad for Dak. I like Dak. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he kind of gets crapped on a lot for being overrated or whatever you want to call it. But he's a really good quarterback. The guy threw for 5,000 yards last year, had 3 straight 450-yard games to open up this year before that injury, obviously. And I mean, I was shocked just watching how he just kind of sat there and looked at his foot and just kind of stared at it. I was in awe. But yeah, man, I mean, these are things you hate to see, and I feel bad for him, and I hope he recovers. Obviously, fully. Hope sounded like his surgery went well.
Yeah,
and that all is good news. And look, like him or not, obviously most people here don't like the Cowboys, but Dak hasn't really done anything as far as in my eyes to make me not like him as a person or even as a player. And to be honest with you, the Cowboys aren't really shouldn't really be on the Bills fans' mind too much anyway, given that the history of the 90s is kind of long gone. Obviously, we lost the 2 Super Bowls, but we rarely play the Cowboys. And so prayers out to Dak, speedy recovery. Any thoughts on Dak before we
my great uncle, who was like a grandfather to me, he had 2 pictures in his wallet when he passed away. One was my great aunt, right? Had a picture of her. And then he had a picture of Dak Prescott from Mississippi State. So Dak will always hold a special place in my heart, obviously, because my grandfather, essentially, that was his favorite player. And my grandfather had a stroke later on in his life, right? So he could only say yes or no. But to know that he had a picture of Dak Prescott from Mississippi State in his wallet and my great aunt, right? If those are the only 2 pictures. So obviously he liked him a lot. Dak is a great guy. You can't find one person that says anything bad about Dak, right? And we can argue where he is as a player all day long. Sure, we can argue that, but we cannot argue the fact that he's a great guy. So, and then of course, a lot of people were saying, RIP to Dak, or Dak's career is over, and that might not be the case, right? Sports medicine has come a long way, and I'm excited to see the road that he's going to go on. Hopefully he comes back and he comes back strong, right? We'll just have to see.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the thing about sports medicine. I mean, you used to, 10, 15 years ago, a guy tore his ACL, was like a minimum of a year before he could even really come back and do anything. Now you see, not that they're coming back and killing it, but like you see situations where like AP comes back from a torn ACL and is fine. And a lot of guys, I mean, ACL injuries, it seems like they're the most common injuries nowadays in the NFL, these non-contact ACL injuries, but even more so this year with the abbreviated offseason. But anyway, yeah, prayers up to Dak. And I think it was good that we mentioned him there. So thank you. Thank you, James, for bringing that up. All right, so let's start talking about Bills Titans. There's a lot on people's minds with this game in regards to obviously the COVID stuff, and in regards to, were we actually going to play this game on time, the scheduling changes that took place because of this, trying to get this game in. And I just want to take a little bit of time, just a minute here, to talk about sort of my feelings towards the Titans as a team, and how it's kind of bubbled up to this point for me personally. Obviously, going back to like the Music City Miracle, that stung. There was not really a true rivalry with the Titans and the Bills, but it's kind of been this sort of like underground, bubbling sort of like rivalry, I feel like, between the Bills and the Titans the last couple years. There was that whole Twitter sort of thing where the Titans like bought votes to beat the Bills on the fan vote thing. There's this, the stuff about the Titans, like possibly like not deliberately, I don't want to say that, but like not caring so much about following the protocols. There's, obviously the Bills beat the Titans in a very tough fought game last year, and the Titans have been a playoff team. They went to the AFC Championship game. They got Mike Vrabel as their head coach, who's obviously had the history with New England. So there's obviously the Bills rivalry ties in there. So for me, I'm kind of starting to not like the Titans, man. I'm really like starting to think of them as kind of like a sort of outside the division, little bit of a rivalry. And I'm not going to say it's kind of on the level of like the Colts Patriots were with Manning and Brady, but like I feel like the Bills Titans are start of kind of building like this little sort of underground, sort of under the radar rivalry because of all these things that have happened, and a little bit of the history going back to the Music City Miracle. Now you live in Tennessee. I do. I want to get your thoughts on this and see, like, what are you hearing? What are you seeing from the Tennessee side? Because obviously there's some great fans out there for the Titans. Rico just did a show with a couple Titans guys, and they were awesome. But it seems like there's maybe a little bit of animosity right now between these two franchises. So what are you seeing in Tennessee with the Titans?
All of my friends in Tennessee that are Tennessee fans don't necessarily respect the Bills like they should, right? Mm-hmm. They see this, maybe not this year, but they necessarily see it as an easy win. Most of the time the Bills are on the schedule, which, to their credit, right, the Bills have not always been good, but the Titans haven't been good either. I grew up in Tennessee, right? I did not like Tennessee. There's a reason why I'm a Bills fan, right? Because I fell in love with Jim Kelly on NFL Classics. Obviously, I'm not old.
You're
right?
a young buck.
I am. But I remember Jeff Fisher came to my elementary school with the raccoon. Was his name, like T-Rack, right? He came to my elementary school, and I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world, right? And I was that young. Tennessee has always been a 9-7 team. Always been a 9-7 team. They can never get over that hump. And finally, they have a year where it looks like they're going to get over that hump. They're going to get past 9-7. They're going to actually do something, right? And they go out and they want to mess around and basically bring on a all-out outbreak, right? So at that point, I'm like, I'm over it already. But I've got receipts, and I'm ready to post them all over social media.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people talking in the comments section. Like, there's a lot of animosity right now towards the Titans from Bills Mafia.
There is, and it feels like it's one-sided, right? Because I obviously the Titans think they did nothing wrong, and they think like, oh, it's going to be bulletin board material. Like, shut up and sit down, right? Like, come on now. But none of my friends talk about the Bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we talk about the Titans, right? It feels almost one-sided. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't live in the Nashville area. I'm not around a lot of Titans fans. Just because, and you'll see it down here. If you don't have a good team, a lot of the homegrown people here will start liking other teams, right? But of course, when you get closer to Nashville, you come across Titans fans and stuff like that. But man, it feels one-sided, and I'm with you. I'm starting to hate the Titans. I texted my buddy, and I was like, "Are you done, messing up the NFL for everybody?" And he said, "Probably not." So I don't know. It's one-sided in my mind.
I feel that way too. They don't seem to care too much about us. I feel it a little way, and my brother's watching the show. I'm an NC State guy. I went to NC State. He went to UNC Chapel Hill. NC State cares so much about the rivalry with UNC Chapel Hill and trying to beat them, and UNC Chapel Hill does not give two shits about NC State.
Care, right?
They're like, yeah, we're rivals with Duke. Like, we little brother NC State, get out of here. Like, we don't care about you.
Yep.
So it kind of feels like that. We do have a couple Titans fans in the chat tonight. So like, it's good to see our guys interacting with them. I mean, Truth to Hearts. He makes an interesting comment here, right? And Truth to Hearts always brings very sort of like poignant and matter-of-fact opinions, which I appreciate from him. I don't hate the Titans for doing something that every team would have done in that situation, and we keep assuming them practicing is what spread COVID. I think, like, he might be right there, but at the end of the day, what people are upset about is that they broke the protocols, and they're associating that with the COVID tests, right? Like, right or wrong, whether that truly was what resulted in these guys getting the positive tests, we don't know. We'll never know for sure. But what you can say is that they've had the most positive tests of any organization, over the last like 2-3 weeks. And it would be kind of naive to think that it's just a coincidence that because they broke protocol, that wasn't the reason that they had the increased numbers. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that, but there's my brother. Go Heels, of course. Yeah.
Get on out of here. It's somebody mentioned the Music City Miracle. It starts at the Music City Miracle. I've got a funny story about that, right? It was my best friend. I sent him the link to this, and he's not in the comments, so that hurts. So, former best friend. It was his wedding, right? And what he wanted to do for his bachelor party was he wanted to go see Drew Brees. He's a big Saints fan, right? So, Saints were playing Tennessee. So, we decided to go and watch Tennessee versus the Saints, right? So, we're on the Saints sideline, right? We're in their section. I'm a little bit late getting there. We obviously drove separately. I'm a little bit late getting there. I'm walking up the stairs. I see him. I wave at him. He waves at me. I'm walking up there, and all of a sudden on the scoreboard, it was the anniversary, right, of the Music City Miracle, and they just decided to play it right there on the scoreboard. And I was like, come on, guys! Like, I'm not here to be crucified, right? Like, this is awful. Like, why are you doing this right now? And there was like 5 or 6 of people there with my best friend. They were all laughing at me, and I was like, this is awful. This is the worst thing in my life. So yeah, that's Music City Miracle.
We'll never get away from it, man. We'll never get away from it. All right, let's start talking about this game a little bit. And I want to start with the injury reports for both teams. The Titans, we'll start with them. From an actual, we'll call it football injury related standpoint, they're actually quite healthy. There's 2 guys on their injury report. AJ Brown's questionable, Taylor Lewan's questionable. All signs point to AJ Brown probably suiting up for this game. But what we do know about the Titans is they still have a bunch of guys on their COVID reserve list, including key defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons in the middle and key wide receiver Corey Davis. They did, as of a couple hours ago, activate Daquan Jones and Bo Brinkley from their COVID list, so those 2 guys will be active. But they have linebacker Kameli Correa on the list still. Christian Fulton is on the list. Wide receiver Adam Humphries, Cameron Batson, Jeffrey Simmons, who I mentioned is probably the biggest notable name there, Corey Davis, and McCoy Pruitt. So the Titans, other than their COVID list, are relatively healthy coming into this game. And let me pull up the Bills injury report here really quick. So I have a graphic for that. And while I'm doing that, let me bring up the super chat from Bills fan 1970. Says, "Hey, I was born in East Nashville and grew up in Antioch." I don't know. I'm assuming that's like
Antioch.
a suburb
Antioch,
of Nashville. Yeah. Okay. I go round and round with my family about the so-called home run throwback 20 years later. Yeah, like I said, I don't think we're ever getting away from that. Bills fan 1970. If I recall correctly, even ESPN did like a sports science on this to see whether or not it really was like a forward pass. I don't remember exactly where they came out on that, but man.
Shout out East Nashville. If you ever want to party and you go to Nashville, go to East Nashville. That's where all the hipsters go. I'm sure it wasn't like that back in the day, but that's it.
All right, so let me bring up the Bills injury report now, and we've got some stuff to talk about here.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring this up. We've got a lengthy injury report, but overall, from a numbers standpoint, not a ton of guys that we expect to be out, but there's some key guys out. Obviously, Allen and Beasley were full. They're not even carrying an injury designation into this game. No worries about them. John Brown, questionable. They changed his designation from calf to knee, and he's limited. He's been limited all week. He's questionable. I think he's probably going to suit up, but we'll see. Same for Cody Ford. We will see. I don't know. We'll talk about that guard rotation, as a possible a pain point for us. Milano is the big one here on the list. Obviously, he's on IR. He's not playing. He's out. Zach Moss, full practice, but still listed as questionable. We're not sure if he's going to play. Del'Shawn Phillips, this is actually a little bit misleading on the Bills' injury report here. He was a full practice Saturday, but they just put him on IR today. I don't know if everyone saw that, but Del'Shawn Phillips got put on IR, and so he was put on IR. The Bills called up Deion Lacey in a corresponding move and waived Evan Boehm to an injury settlement. So Evan Boehm is also no longer on the team. Andre Roberts limited questionable with the ankle. He'll probably play. Brian Winters limited questionable with the knee. TBD on whether he will play. And obviously the glaring name on the list here is Tre'Davious White. Has not practiced all week with this, quote, back injury, questionable to play. And I want to start with the Bills injury report here. And like the reason that we're going to do that is because we're going to talk about the Titans offense first as they match up with the Bills defense. There's been there's a conspiracy theory out there, and I don't know how much of it you buy into this. Steve mentioned it as well on our show Thursday. I want to get your opinion, and I want the comments section to let me know what they think about this as well. Is there to answer James? Yeah, I believe Milano is on the IR, which means he's going to miss a minimum of 3 games. Someone can fact check me on that, but I'm fairly certain they put him on the IR. Someone can fact check me on that. Trey White. I want to talk about Trey White and this conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory is that we know that Trey White was hesitant before the season to even play, and he was considering opting out. Given the situation with Tennessee and the uncertainty around the game and obviously the situation with COVID with all their players and the NFL trying to get this in, do you buy into any of this potential talk that Trey White is kind of purposely missing this game for some of those reasons as a way to protect himself, and the Bills are kind of protecting him along the way? Do you buy that at all?
That's such a good question. Manny brought that up as well to me, and I don't necessarily buy that. I don't know if I see a pro player who's already committed to the season playing worried about playing again. I think, and Trey seems like type guy. Of course, I don't know him personally, right? But he seems like type guy. Like if he's going to be committed to something, he's going to be committed to it for good, right? So I don't think he's faking an injury, and I also don't think that Sean McDermott would fake an injury on an injury report just to get him to sit so he doesn't have to play. So I don't think so. No, I mean, if we're looking at statistics right now, I'd say there's a 75% chance that's not true and a 25% chance that it is true, right? Mm-hmm. But no, I don't. I think maybe he does have a back injury.
Yeah, he might, right? And it's gonna hurt to not have him in this game, especially if AJ Brown does play. So I want to talk about that. I think I don't know actually. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't know that Milano is on the IR. So I'm sorry if I misspoke on that. I think it's Levi Wallace that's on the IR. We know that. But anyway, let's talk about these injuries on the Bills defense. Matt Milano out, Trey White DNP, Levi Wallace out. Where do you see this being an issue for the Bills if a guy like AJ Brown suits up? Trey might be out, Levi Wallace is out. Our cornerback depth is really going to be tested here. I think we've got Josh Norman, we've got Cam Lewis, who we brought up, we've got Saron Neal, and we've got Teron Johnson in the slot. Those are our top four guys. Do you envision a rotation where it's Cam Lewis and Norman on the outside with Johnson on the inside? And if so, do you find that at all to be concerning going into this game, given the Titans also have their own issues at wide receiver with Corey Davis and Humphreys out and possibly a hobbled AJ Brown?
Yes. So, obviously it's a little concerning, like a tiny bit concerning, but right. And I have the utmost respect for Ryan Tannehill before some of these Titans fans come at me. I really do. I have the utmost respect for Ryan Tannehill. We're going to have to make him throw, right? That's probably the key to this game, is make him win this game, which he has done in the past, right? But he's going to have to prove it again. And he should be able to throw all over those cornerbacks. Like, those cornerbacks, do they scare anybody in this year, right? Do they? So we're going to have to make him throw. So I think that leaves more pressure on the front seven, wouldn't you think? Like, let's get to the quarterback, right? Let's not give him enough time to make those throws, because you can make a poor secondary look good if you have a good front seven, which we do have a good front seven. So I think the biggest concern is not necessarily the cornerbacks, but Matt Milano for me, right? Mm-hmm. Because Jonnu Smith is an animal. He is a beast, right? He is amazing. I say start him in fantasy every single week. He's a must start. He's a tight end one, right? But outside of fantasy, like, this guy he's putting up numbers. He's ready to play. So Jonnu Smith is the guy that scares me, and that goes on Matt Milano with him being out. So that's who I'm banking my money on.
Yeah, and we're going a little bit of the outside in with this preview on the defense. So we cover the secondary there. Now we get to the linebackers, and Matt Milano being out is a huge loss. Jonnu Smith is a mismatch in the Titans' favor in that regard. Jonnu Smith flashed many times when he was still playing sort of second fiddle to Delanie Walker, and always thought that he was super athletic, and he kind of looked like, honestly, like a younger version of Delanie Walker in my mind. But this is going to be an issue with Matt Milano out. Jonnu Smith is obviously one of the Titans' top targets, and if AJ Brown is hobbled, we know, at this point we are expecting Corey Davis and Adam Humphreys to not play in this game, given they're on the COVID list. Jonnu Smith becomes a focal point of that passing game for Tennessee, and with no Matt Milano, we're going to be putting the likes of Tyrell Dotson, AJ Klein as that second linebacker, and my assumption is that it will be Dotson. Bills run essentially a lot of two linebacker base formation. They don't run a lot of three linebacker, so I would imagine it's going to be Dotson and Edmonds on the field a lot. AJ Klein, my God, man. I mean, I've said this since we signed him. I did not like the signing. He's not athletic. Physically, he's going to be overmatched by a guy like Jonnu Smith if he has to cover him. It's not a good look. It's not a good look for the Bills. We saw what Gesicki did to us, right, with the Dolphins. Even Higbee late in that game. Darren Waller had himself, how many catches did he have in that Bills game against us? I mean, so that to me is the biggest concern. So now as we kind of move from the linebackers now into the line, we start talking about, well, what do we need to do to stop Derrick Henry? Because the Bills, for as much gripe as we gave them, me included, about that run defense heading into that Raiders game, they shut down Josh Jacobs pretty well. A good offensive line for the Raiders and a good running back in Josh Jacobs. Can we do that again? Can we repeat that again against Derrick Henry, or are the Titans just going to hand the ball to him 40 times no matter what? Like, what do you see this as? Like, and I want you to talk to it from a fantasy angle as well. Is like Derrick Henry like a really a good start this week, or do you think the Bills have a chance to contain him?
First off, my tag on Action Network is just my name, Casey Reed, REED. You can find me on there and go follow me. I think Terrence, I can't remember his last name. He asked that. There it is, Terrence Reese. There you go, Terrence. Then let's get into Derrick Henry. We can hope to stop him, but it's Derrick Henry, right? I think somebody a year ago, 2 years ago, said something about I don't think anyone will beat the Bills by running the ball. Okay. I think somebody a couple of years ago was like, Derrick Henry hasn't done anything. And I was like, okay, well, look at the coaches. He wasn't starting, right? AJ decline.
AJ decline. I like that. Nice one, Brian.
Look, his coaches before Vrabel were not committed to handing the ball to him. Vrabel has a mask that we saw him wear one time in a photo. He probably took it off and I don't know, probably gave COVID to 24 other players in his organization. But he has a mask that says, feed Derrick Henry, right? So my man is going to run Derrick Henry. We can try to stop him, but Derrick Henry is not Josh Jacobs. We can try, right? But I don't think it's going to happen. I'm starting Derrick Henry. If I have Derrick Henry in my lineup, I'm starting Derrick Henry. I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to try to have the time of possession, just like we saw in the Seattle game. I mean, you had this conversation today. How do you beat Russell Wilson? You keep him off the field. Well, Josh Allen is not Russell Wilson, and I'm not comparing those two, but let's compare them real quick, right? Mm-hmm. How do you beat Josh Allen, right? If he's going to come back and he's going to win the fourth quarter a billion times, right? How do you beat Josh Allen? Let's keep him off the field, right? That's one good way to beat him, right? And when you have a workhorse in Derrick Henry, right? Let's go ahead and let's run the ball 40 times. Now, I don't think they're going to run the ball 40 times, but Derrick Henry's going to be a force, and you're going to have to gang tackle him like crazy.
Yep. Titans are 9th in the league in rushing yards per game at 129 a game. So that should be a focus for them. Obviously, would they give the big money to Derrick Henry in the offseason? You would expect that.
One thing that I want to mention, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. Zach Allen, you brought it up that we stopped him last year. Right. We stopped him last year. I'm not going to scroll all the way up and try to find that. But you said we stopped Henry last year. I don't compare seasons, right? This is a whole new season. I try not to look at the past seasons. I try to take each game individually, right? And our defense is not the defense from last year. So that's why I'm saying we can try to stop him. I don't think we're going to. And you know what, guys? I will gladly be wrong. I love being wrong, right? So if we do stop him, yes, awesome. But I'm saying this isn't last year, right? Our defense is not last year. And obviously the play on the field can attest to that.
And we don't have Star. And as much as people want to gripe on him, he plugged the middle there for us. So talking about the Titans being 9th in the league in rushing, surprisingly, the Bills are actually top 10 in rush defense this year. They're actually 9th best against the run this year, only giving up 101 yards a game on the ground. So matchup wise, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a strength because it essentially came down to two games where the Bills played really well against the run against Jacobs. And obviously week 1 against the Jets had no running game. They did okay against Miami, but not great. And St. Louis had a good game there. So
is that stat misleading though?
That's what I'm saying. I think the stat's a little misleading because of the, playing the Jets week 1. Obviously, I think the best thing to take away from this is that what did you do for me lately? What have you done for me lately? And the Bills' most recent effort against the run outside of the Jets week 1, which had Le'Veon Bell for only half that game and a terrible offensive line. Their most recent performance, which was against this Raiders team who we thought was going to be able to move the ball on us based on what the Rams did not, right? So in my mind, yeah, it's a little misleading, but it's also what have they done for me lately? And as far as I'm concerned, the last game they played was their best game of run defense they played. I'm curious to see what people think about the Bills' run defense in the comments section. Definitely put your comments in there. We'll read them out. Zach Allen says, stack the box, force Tannehill to score and get into a duel. I'll take Josh Allen over Tannehill any day week. And I think that's going to be the key in what you said. Like, Derrick Henry may get 30 carries in this game, but how efficient is he going to be with those carries? Do you see a game where because he's not like the most efficient guy anyway when it comes to yards per carry, but if I'm the Titans, I mean, I might be handing it to Derrick Henry like 30, 35 times in this game to try to beat the Bills and keep Josh Allen off the field. So,
yeah, so many people have said, go score, you know what I'm saying? Score and eliminate the run game from the Titans, make Ryan Tannehill become a shootout. And I honestly think Henry is at 3.9 yards carry this year versus 5.1 last year. This is his lowest since coming into the league, maybe slowing down, maybe defense is playing the Titans differently. And that's such a good response because the Titans have been having to rely on Ryan Tannehill this year when they do play, when they're not being stricken with COVID. They have had to do that. So I don't know.
Truth to Heart's bringing some heat here. Derrick Henry's not a factor. You guys only watched 3 games last year of the Titans, and trying to say he's a factor. We get the lead. We won. I mean, yes, I will say I to some extent, if you go back to Derrick Henry's game logs last year, he ended the season very strongly and had a good playoffs. In the beginning of the season, he did get out of the gates a little bit slow, but I'm not going to say he's not a factor. I think that would be maybe doing him a disservice to say he's not a factor.
He heats up as the year goes on, right? As the year goes on, he heats up, which is weird to me, but it is what it is. But you're right. Yeah, when it came playoff time, or even right before the playoffs is when he won the rushing title, right? So I wouldn't say he's a non-factor. I think that's a little, I wouldn't say it.
Yeah, and Zach says, how is Henry going to cause trouble for stacking the box, make the Titans throw, and even if they score, will match them? I think this is kind of what makes sense as far as the Bills' defensive game plan, right? Stop the run as best as you can. The Titans are going to be down, Corey Davis. They're going to be down Adam Humphries. A.J. Brown is likely to be less than 100% if he does suit up. Jonnu Smith is the guy you worry about. In a way, I kind of like a little bit liken this to, I don't want to say it's not like the Jets, right? But when we were playing the Jets, it was like Le'Veon Bell, Chris Herndon, and Jamison Crowder. Playing the Titans, it's Jonnu Smith, Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown if he plays. Like, those are the 3 guys you got to worry about. And, you stop the run first, make them pass. I mean, Tannehill, better than probably people give him credit for, but
yeah,
Titans are depleted as well, right? So, it's going to come down to our injuries with Milano and possibly White being out and Wallace. Are our injuries significant enough where it's going to make the Titans' secondary receivers look good? And I don't know, right? I mean, guys like Nelson Aguilar and Zay Jones and Hunter Renfrow had some catches last week, right? So I guess I'm not super concerned, but I do agree with Zach here that stopping the run first and foremost has got to be priority number 1 if I'm the Bills. All right.
No, I agree. Also, Captain Trips is a Titans fan. He said, "Don't forget about Khalif Raymond." I'm gonna forget about Raymond for a very long time.
Yeah,
he's a rookie. I don't think he's a factor in this game. I think he's gonna be really good, but I'm gonna forget about him for this game.
Yeah, I mean, 4th season for Khalif Raymond. He's 5'8", 182.
Is it the 4th season? Has he been in the practice squad? I've literally, this is the first year I've heard of him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's playing out of necessity.
Well, he's a returner.
Yep. So, well, I mean, we'll see. He might if he's matched up, in the slot, let's say against the Teron Johnson, or if he's on the outside and we're going with Norman on one side and Cam Lewis on the other, there's a chance for him to be able to stretch the defense a little bit. But that's a tall ask, I feel like, from a guy like that. We could be wrong. We could be coming back here on Wednesday talking about how Khalif Raymond, messed us up. Randy Hartman, a good comment here. Also, if Luan is out, yeah, Luan's questionable. It seems like at this point that he's more questionable than A.J. Brown. Those are the only 2 guys listed on the Titans official injury report, the non-COVID injuries. So not sure about Luan if he's going to play or not yet. Obviously, if he's out, that's a big boost for the Bills' defensive line and also for the Bills' potential pass rush if they can get the Titans into 3rd down situations. So
Truth to Heart says, I'm willing to bet Derrick Henry won't get over 70 yards. You're willing to bet?
Hey, take that up with our guy in Twitter. DM him on Twitter and take.
Because I am a gambling man. If you're setting the bar at over under 70, then yeah, I'll take that bet with you, Truth to Hearts. But here's the stipulations, okay? If I win the bet, okay, you have to do $5 in a super chat for the Bills guys, right? If you win the bet, I'll donate $5 to whatever charity you want me to.
High rollers here. Okay.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to go big, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, anybody can get $5.
Yeah, but this is kind of more for bragging rights. I feel like now,
it
right?
is. Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? This is what I really like about Truth to Hearts is he doesn't care he doesn't care about if we think we're gonna like his comment or not. He's gonna put his comment out there, and he's gonna, as he says, truth to heart. He's gonna come from the heart, and he's gonna tell the truth. I don't know if that's why he put his name like that, and who knows? But you know what? I love the way he brings his comments with conviction, and take it up with Casey, on Twitter, or DM him or something, and and we'll get that action going. So, all right, I think any last thoughts on the Bills' defense against the Titans' offense? Pass rush. We haven't talked much about that yet. Do you have a concern? I have concerns about the Bills' pass rush. Obviously, Quentin Jefferson got the sack last week and the fumble. I haven't seen consistency out of the pass rush this year. I'm a little concerned because I really liked this defensive line rotation going into the season. I knew we weren't necessarily going to be a big sack outfit because that's not McDermott's style, but with the rotation and the depth of guys, I thought we would be getting the quarterback a little bit more often than we are now. So is that a concern for you at all? Play action Ryan Tannehill and us not getting home and potentially getting beat by the likes of Jonnu Smith because Tannehill has all day to throw.
No, I don't think the sacks worry me as much. And I don't know if it's because Steve has gotten into my head by saying that, that's not Sean McDermott. He's more of a high pressure, not necessarily a sack guy. And I don't know if that's Steve getting in my head, but I hear him say that on a weekly basis, almost on a daily basis in our group chat, right? So since he's put that in my head, he's brainwashed me. I'm like, no, that doesn't matter to me. That's fine. But I think it is going to be hard to put Tannehill on the ground.
Yep.
Because of the play action, it's going to slow us down. And then, of course, the screen game. Tennessee uses the screen game a couple times.
And let's give Tannehill a little credit, too. He's a little bit – he's decently athletic. He's mobile. He was a former receiver. He can run. He's kind of like – reminds me a little bit of Fitzpatrick when he runs. Probably a little bit more athletic than Fitzpatrick with that kind of style. It's going to be a potential problem. So that should cover the Bills' defense against the Titans' offense. So now let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about: the Bills' offense against the Titans' defense. And let's start with Josh Allen and the Titans' injury report. Someone was asking about Clowney. Clowney, he had a knee injury on the injury report this week. He doesn't have an injury designation going into the game. Neither does cornerback Malcolm Butler. They're both going to be playing. Clowney is obviously a game wrecker. So let's talk about Let's talk about that first matchup. Let's talk about the Bills' offensive line against that Titans' defensive line. They've got Clowney. They've got I lost my injury report here. They've got Simmons, who's potentially out because of the COVID thing. They did just activate Daquan, so he's back in the mix. But this Titans defensive line is pretty strong. I mean, that's like that's their that's probably their calling card on defense. Obviously, no Simmons is huge. They still got Clowney. They've got Daquan Jones. They got Rashaan Evans, who was a guy that we were kind of like iffy on in the draft process, but the line is good. Do you see, especially with maybe Cody Ford banged up at guard, Brian Winters banged up, is this going to be an issue for us this week? This Titans defensive line, it's probably the toughest matchup we've had from a defensive line front all season. Are you concerned? Do you see an issue with this at all going into this game?
No. And I'm only saying no, right? Not because of our O-line, but because of how hard it is to get Josh Allen on the ground, right? His athleticism outside the pocket is huge. And then, of course, he's really hard to bring down. If only he knew when to throw the ball away. I think that's the big thing. Okay. So, but no, it doesn't worry me a lot. Manny is right. Simmons and Clowney and Jones are beasts. And me and Manny talked about that on our podcast as well. I love Simmons. I've loved Simmons for a while. Clowney I don't know if it's his name, if it's that one season that he had. And Clowney adds value. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he doesn't scare me as much as Simmons scares me. I think it was a disservice last year. Simmons, did he tear his ACL?
Mm-hmm.
But I was excited. Yeah,
still drafted in the first round, which is
he's an animal.
Yeah, he's an absolute animal. I mean, I am concerned about Clowney a little bit, honestly. Like I am, because yes, Josh Allen can escape pressure. He's very good at kind of not going down or avoiding kind of the first pressure. But you're right. He's got to, he's going to maybe have to throw the ball away more than he's used to, or more than he would want to in this game, because, Clowney's going to be able to, wreak some havoc. I think that, we'll see what Evans can do on the other side. But I mean, I think this is a tough matchup for the Bills. I really do. I think their offensive line, this is going to be a real test for it's going to be a real test for Dawkins. It's going to be a real test for Darrell Williams, who I've been very impressed with so far this year, by the way, Darrell Williams. And if those interior guys are banged up, man, how fortunate will it be if Jeffrey Simmons doesn't play this game, and, all we have to worry about is Daquan Jones. But even still, I mean, Daquan Jones is a pretty good player himself. Simmons not being there is a big advantage for the Bills. Almost the equivalent of a Matt Milano for us being out if Simmons is out for the Titans. That's kind of how I view it, almost like an eye for an eye there. So,
two things. One, I'm on my MacBook and my phone just started ringing like crazy, right? So it took me out of the feed. I come back. Tim Stook, Timmy. He said freaking Herbert looking good on Monday Night Football, which reminds me, I had LAC +7 today. I pull up Action Network. First thing I see is a bunch of green again. Let's freaking go. I'm excited. Take it, Nap. Shut up. And Nap's going to owe me $10. I cannot wait.
Hey, Justin Herbert, not to get too sidetracked here about fantasy and gambling, but he's one of my quarterbacks in our Dynasty League. And I didn't think he was going to play this early this season. Man, I've been so happy to have him.
We're going to talk about it here in a minute.
Yeah, so Titans gave up 30 to the Jags. Why are we worried? I'm not worried about putting up points necessarily, truth to hearts. I'm worried about some of the individual matchups. I think the defensive line is a tough matchup for our offensive line. But let's talk about a little bit how we can neutralize that. The Titans defensively, for some of these individual players we're mentioning, they are not a collectively good defense from a yardage standpoint. They're second to last in the NFL in rushing defense. They've given up 166 on the ground a game rushing. They're bottom third in passing defense. Let me see, where are they ranked? They're like around 20th in league in passing defense, around there. And they're third to last in total defense yards per game. So while they do have some nice individual contributors, and I'm not saying that this should be overlooked just because they've done this to this point, but defensively, they haven't really been able to stop people. Minnesota put up 30 points on them. So the Bills offense, for as much as like maybe we might be worried about, I mean, me more so than you about Clowney, the Bills offense should be able to move the ball here. And so we take a look at the rest of this Titans defense. They've got Harold Landry, Jaylen Brown, and Evans as their linebackers. They've got Adoree Jackson, Kenny Vaccaro, Kevin Byard, and Malcolm Butler in their secondary, which, on paper looks like a pretty solid,
Is Malcolm Butler, is he playing? Is he on IR? Is Adoree Jackson on IR still? Is he off? Because that's, and Truth to Hearts mentioned, the Jaguars put up 30, but I don't think Adoree Jackson was playing. I don't think Malcolm Butler was playing either. I think they had rookie cornerbacks out there.
Malcolm Butler's playing in this game. He's not on the injury list.
So their secondary has gotten a lot better since that Jacksonville game. But I think there was a comment I saw up here. Jeff King says, bottom line is we're expected to win this game simply because the Titans' downtime and lack of prep for game. It scares me. And he's correct, right? The Bills, this feels like a classic trap game. right? It feels like Bills Mafia is riding high. We're 4-0 for the first time since 2008. Then we go into Tennessee, who's had a lot of off time. They're down because of COVID. It feels like a trap game. It feels like if we're not prepared, which this season we've always been very prepared and we're not getting a big head, but if we're not prepared and we don't take them serious, it could become a trap game, right? And I think that's what scares me the best.
Yeah, and so thanks, Zach. I think Zach, appreciate you kind of helping us out while we're on the air here. Yeah, Butler's good. He wasn't on the injury report. Adoree and AJ Brown have game time decisions. Yeah, I saw AJ Brown was questionable. It sounds like he's going to play, so that will help, obviously. But honestly, I think this, regardless, is such a good matchup for the Bills. Josh Allen and those receivers. Even if John Brown can't go, Gabriel Davis has been such a weapon early on this year. You know, Diggs has been.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying that our wide receivers, you know, Diggs. I'm not saying that they can cover Diggs. I'm not saying that anything like that. Butler's playing, but he can't cover Diggs. Come on, bro. That's not what I'm saying, right? I think Diggs is a tremendous talent, right? I'm just saying that, you know, if we don't. What are the words I'm trying to say, David? Read my mind real quick. If we don't respect the Titans,
you have to respect the opponent.
We have to respect them, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in there and be like, "Oh, the Bills are going to win 5-0." Like, I'm trying to think logically here, right?
Well, it's the classic Belichick, right?
Yeah.
During the entire drought year, when we were awful and the Patriots were owning us every game, every press conference, Belichick came in and said, "Oh, they have a good team. They have good players. This guy's good. That guy's good." Like, he respected us as an opponent and then destroyed us on the field, right? So it's like we got to respect the opponent. Come out prepared. No, I don't think anyone's saying. Randy's saying, "Why would anyone think?" I don't think we're saying that he would.
No. That's not what I'm saying. And of course, I clarified that. I said this year, you know, we've always been prepared, right? And maybe I'm a little pessimistic, right? All right, I'm looking at things at a 5. If we're looking at things from a 10 perspective, and oh my goodness, we're 4-0, I'm looking at it from a 5, right? Because I'm trying to sit back. I'm trying to relax a little bit, right? That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to get all pumped up and be like, we're going 5-0, blah, 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 and all that good stuff. You know, we're looking at the matchups. That's the key point to it.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of matchups, I want to talk a little bit about fantasy here a little bit in Devin Singletary, right? Because he's kind of flashed the last few weeks. He's been very efficient when he's had the ball in his hands. Don't know if Zach Moss is going to be back for this game. He's questionable, although he did have full practice. So from a fantasy standpoint, and just honestly from a game planning standpoint, if you're the Bills, what do you do with Devin Singletary this game? Do you come out like you've been coming out the last 4 games, which appears to be our offense, and air it out? You know, throw the ball between 30 and 40 times, Singletary 15 or so touches. That seems to be the sweet spot for him. And, you know, Steve mentioned, like, and if multiple people mentioned, should we get this guy the ball more? I think a 15 to 17 touches is like a perfect number for a guy like Devin Singletary, especially if he's averaging 5 yards per carry on the ground and, you know, getting close to that 10 yards per reception mark through the air. I'm okay with him getting, you know, only the 15 to 17 touches if it means Josh Allen's balling and throwing it all over the yard. But from a fantasy standpoint, does it limit him at all? Or do you think that it's just because he's so efficient, we shouldn't be worried about it?
No, we shouldn't be worried about it. The Bills are starting to use him more in the passing game. And I say more in the passing game, but I think he's getting 2 to 3 receptions per game on average. And he's averaging around about 50 yards in the passing game, which I love. And I think the key to this game is to utilize him in the passing game. Screens, I think, are going to be huge, especially when you're trying to stop that pass rush or slow it down. So, no, I love Devin Singletary in fantasy. I think he's a must start. He's going to get you that 18, 19, 20 points a game. I think he's averaging between 16 to 18 points. So if you're looking at a double-digit running back, I would say a running back 2, a flex option. It depends on how deep your league is, but I love Devin Singletary.
Yeah, I think
I'm not worried about Zach Moss.
No, and I mean, Zach Moss is banged up coming in this game. And, you know, Steve and I kind of talked about this a little bit last show, and I want to hear what people think in the comments section as far as the split between Singletary and Moss, assuming both are healthy. I think it's clear now, like, it seems like the Bills want Singletary to kind of be the guy and use Zach Moss in spot situations. That may change over the course of the season as Moss gets more, you know, acclimated to the NFL game. But it seems like to me right now is that Steve and I talked about what does it mean to have a bell cow back? And my definition of a bell cow back was a back like a Derrick Henry who's going to carry the ball 30 times a game. It doesn't have to mean that it's the primary guy. To me, Singletary can be the primary running back, but it doesn't mean he's a, quote, bell cow.
Correct.
Because when I think bell cow, I think a guy that's carrying it 30 times a game, right? So it doesn't mean that he's going to have to like split 50-50 with Moss. I think it just means that, we shouldn't worry so much about him getting that 25 touches a game. That's not what we need, especially because we've kind of evolved into a passing offense anyway. So, I mean, that's kind of where Tim says, I think it should be Singletary 80% of the time. We've got 999. Silver says 60% Singletary, 40% Moss. Yeah, I think, my brother says, wish I hadn't drafted Moss in the 7th round. Yeah, I mean, I think
don't worry about it.
A lot of people kind of thought that Moss was big value and I was one of those people, right? I thought he would be, but it's still early in the season. I think Moss will still contribute. I wouldn't drop him. I wouldn't drop him just yet. But anyway,
don't listen to your brother. I would drop him.
Manny says bell cow means a 3-down back. I mean, Singletary's a 3-down back. Like a lot of guys are 3-down backs, but it's like they're 3-down backs for a series or two, and they rotate with another guy. So it's like Truth to Heart says Moss should be the closer. I like the thought of that late in games, pound them up, run the clock out. But honestly, that hasn't really been the Bills' style. They've been aggressive still late in games, even with leads. So
good.
It'll be interesting to see if when Moss comes back, if maybe their philosophy changes a little bit. I don't know. So yeah. All right, man, we're doing good. I think we're about that time in the show where we're going to do some predictions. So it's kind of weird for us to do the predictions on the Monday show, but that's what it is tonight. So comment section, start throwing out your predictions to the game. Casey, I'm going to let you do your prediction first, and also tell me and the viewers, give them a little tease, a little freebie of kind of where your mind's at for betting on this game, along with your prediction, and then I'll start reading out some of the predictions from the comment section while you're doing that.
So prediction. Why does that sound so weird to say out loud? I think the offense scores 30 points. I think Tennessee, I think it's going to be closer than people think, but I think it's going to be around 30 to 24 in the Bills' favor. I think the Bills are going to win. The thing about this is, and I said this today to Bot Talks Bills, I said that the score will be close. The game will not be close. Henry over 70 yards rushing. I want that action.
Truth to Hearts might have 2 people wanting that action now.
Hey, we're doubling up, y'all. You're talking about it. A lot of 5s will start adding up to a charity. But I've got 30 to 24.
30 to 24, and obviously the Vegas spreads came out today. I believe it's got the Bills. Bills at 3.5. The over/under, I believe, is at 53. Somewhere around that. So Dustin Lyons has 43-17. Tim has got Buffalo 33, Titans 17. So close to what you predicted there, Casey. SB's G 42-17 Bills. Zach 34-31 Titans with a Gostkowski game-winning field goal.
That's not a bad bet. He's been doing it this year.
Oh man, 35-27 Buffalo. 27-20 Buffalo. We've got Manny coming in with 28-24.
He's just copying me. Move on to the next.
Zach, big points. 44-31 Bills win the game. Jono gets 100+. Allen goes for 400. Tannehill goes for no defense being played in this game, according to Zach. JA is too efficient to make it close or a blowout. Jack Collier says 31-29. That's tight. That is really tight.
Ooh, I hope not. I took the Bills.
Our guy Brian, 34-20 Bills. Jeff King, another regular, 31-28 Bills. Wow, Trek's always very optimistic. Always very optimistic. 35-7 Bills. All right, let me give you my prediction.
Okay.
I do think that this game will be pretty close. I don't think the Bills are going to run away with this one. I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's close because the end score is close, like kind of like the Raiders and the Dolphins game where they kind of scored late touchdowns to make it seem closer. I actually think this game is going to be close throughout, within one possession, within 10 points, give or take, sort of. I don't think any team's really going to get up by more than 10. So I do think the Bills' firepower on offense should be enough to overcome their lack of, the lack of Milano and potentially the lack of Trey White. I think it all comes down to me is, stopping that run game of Derrick Henry for us. And if we can do that, like we did against Josh Jacobs last week, then we should win this game. The Bills should be the better team here, but you never know in these games. I mean, the Titans, they're undefeated. They were the in the AFC Championship game last year, so let's give them some credit. I think it's going to be a tight one. I'm going to say 27-26 Bills. And we got a super chat here from Reed Levine at the end. Reed actually guested with us on our post game for the Dallas Thanksgiving game last year. Reed joined Steve and I on our show, so good to see Reed in the chat room tonight. All the one that at the end of the day is a Bills win. Wouldn't be a bad 22nd birthday. And Reed, you're making me feel bad for how old I am by telling me that you're only going to be 22 tomorrow. My goodness, I am old. Okay. Unless there's any last minute super chats, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to get out of here and watch that Saints Chargers game, see what Herbert's doing.
Oh, Herbert's going to win. I took it.
See if Casey's +7 on the Chargers comes true. Casey, one more time. Tell people where they can find you on the Action Network.
So you can find me on the Action Network just by typing in my name, Casey Reed. As of right now, I haven't changed my handle on there. It's just Casey Reed. You can find me. Go follow me on that. If you're trying to download the app, you can either go to the App Store, or if you're on Twitter, a lot of you guys are, go to my profile. It's the pinned tweet. Click on it. It'll download the app for you. Follow me on there. Let's win some money, right? Let's win some money. As of right now, Nap is going to owe me $10, right? I'm going to win a lot of money on this because I took LAC, Los Angeles Chargers, go +7, and I made them. I also took them when they were +7.5. So I'm excited to win a lot of money right now. Manny he's getting killed by my picks this week, just absolutely murdered. It's the week of the dogs, by the way, and pretty much all of them won. So I'm excited.
Oh man, I see the Chargers missed an extra point though.
They did. Don't worry. They're winning right now. They're winning. Don't worry. Look, hey, everybody likes to come at me, right? But at the end of the day, I'm going to need y'all to put some respect on my name when it comes to some gambling.
Yeah. And right at the end, that sweet butter of Joe Miller comes in and says, smash that like. Guys, if you're not listening to it, you need to listen to the Overreaction podcast with Joe Miller. He not only has a face for radio, he has a voice for radio. Nah, I'm just kidding. Because Joe Miller is on a live video show too, Hump Day Hotline on Wednesdays. I'm just razzing him a little, only because I think he has an amazing voice. I wish I had as good of a voice as him. And
you're talking about people making you feel old, and you just use the phrase "I'm just razzing him" a little.
Look, man, I'm old. Okay,
I'm old. I'm just razzing you, my man.
I'm
just
old.
razzing you.
I kind of want to know how old people think I am in the comments section. If anyone wants to throw some last minute guesses in before we sign off, Joe says, "Haha, truth." I like that we have these like cartoon faces because like we all kind of have these on the Buffalo Fanatics. Like,
I know, right?
Casey, you have one. I have one. Joe has one. Steve has one. Pierre has one.
The one with Steve.
Spence has one.
The one with Steve was actually a group of me and Steve, and I just got cut out of it. So,
oh my God.
I know Steve's the worst.
We missed him tonight. I'm sure he's gonna say like, "Hey, you guys didn't get as many views without me," and that's probably true. He is the glue that holds the Bills guys together. But you know what? We tried to hold it down for him tonight, and I think we did an okay job. So
I'm gonna guess 31. By the way, everybody's throwing in these numbers. I'm going 31.
Joe Miller says 34. Ryan Teal says 38. Truth to Hearts 33. Jeff King 36.
Come on.
I am very flattered by you, Casey, saying I'm 31.
Oh, dang.
But I will tell you, there is someone who got it exactly right. And it wasn't Joe Miller. It was Tom Dinder, 35 years young. Tom is a regular as well.
Yep.
Luis, I'm not going to leave you out. You said 35 as well.
Oh,
Richard Rush, another regular coming at the end, 35. Yes.
Oh,
and Nap
here comes
35. Oh,
here comes Nap. Here comes Nap.
Where our guys come in right at the end here. I love
it.
Look,
look, Nap. If you want to come in here and talk about how awesome I am because you don't know how to gamble, then go ahead. Go ahead, put it in the chat. We'll wait. We got time. Go ahead, Nap.
Apparently, I'm better than Dick Duran, or maybe I look like him. I don't know what that means, but Truth to Heart says I didn't realize Steve wasn't there. That means we did a good job.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Manny says, "Damn, making you feel." Look, it's all relative, man. I mean, we had Reed Levine saying he's turning 22 tomorrow, so guy can barely drink. So anyway, I think
I can barely drink.
That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for us tonight. Casey, thank you so much for filling in for Steve. I hope everyone enjoyed it. As we always do when we sign out, we'll end it with the Go Bills. And until next time, Go Bills.
Go Bills.